Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to round 9 of season 4 of our F125 Cadillac career mode. Yes, we return this weekend here to the Belgian Grand Prix, of course, at the iconic Spa-Francorchamps. Of course, if you missed out on the video that went live a few days ago from Silverstone, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out. It's safe to say, as we cross the halfway stage of this season, this championship is absolute cinema so far. At the top of the table, though, we have still got a 4-point buffer ahead of Charles Leclerc, but you can see last weekend, though, it was Lando Norris in the second Ferrari that reminded everybody he wants to be in this championship fight as well. So he is only 30 points back at the moment. But of course, if he can maintain that momentum, if Ferrari can work together, then he could be, back in that fight by even the end of this weekend here in Belgium, of course. Yeah, bit of a shame. Oscar Piastri still isn't really pulling his weight in the second car at the moment. We are 31 points behind Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. And, well, to be honest, I would love to give Cadillac a Constructors' crown come the end of the season. But yeah, for Oscar, though, just too many races of kind of not quite there, not quite in the fight. Still hasn't taken a win this year. It has only been myself and the two Ferrari cars as well. But returning to Belgium, this is one of my favourite tracks on the F1 calendar. It's one that I've always gone well at as well inside F125, so I'm hoping that can give us the extra momentum we need. Of course, I believe it's also our first sprint weekend of the year as well. If you're new, please do make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed to the channel. If you want early access to all of these videos as well, you can click the join button down below. And last but not least, drop me a follow over on Twitch. We live stream over there quite a lot. I'm trying to get to 10k before the end of the year. But yeah, without further ado then, like I said, it's a sprint weekend. We've got a lot of racing to get on with. Let's get out there.
High-speed straights, heady elevation changes and dramatic corners. What is there not to love about today? It's qualifying day here at Spa-Francorchamps.
Well, here we are then, ready for one-shot qualifying here from the Belgian Grand Prix. Normally on the sprint weekends, I would rather run one-shot qualifying just because it helps stop the videos becoming an hour long, and then also can often lead to a little bit of spice as well, as immediately making a bit of a mistake up at that first corner. But I've got no real idea how this car is going to handle this circuit in these slippery conditions, but Eau Rouge is still completely flat out. It was to show just how quick these machines are now inside this series. But yeah, this is meant to be the only wet session of the entire weekend, so obviously it's Spa though, so changeable conditions can always be around the circuit. But already on this lap, I've seen the likes of Antonelli, I've seen Behrman, I've seen Piastri, all running fastest in different places, but I haven't seen a Ferrari yet, as we temporarily get ourselves up then into top spot. I mean, could Kimi Antonelli be on a very brilliant effort here, when everybody is struggling to work out where the grip is. Maybe Red Bull are back. Has always been a bit of a shame inside this series that apart from Max Verstappen, Red Bull have never really kind of consistently been in the fight, but neither of McLaren in the last couple of years as well. So it is kind of weird how things kind of shape up inside this game. There's a little bit of a wobble through Fanyas as well there, but yeah, everybody, especially when you only get one chance, nobody wants to make a mistake. It is fortune favours the brave, and at the moment, Andrea Kimi Antonelli seems to be the bravest. Making our way though up in towards the bus stop chicane though, trying to use as much of our remaining battery as I sensibly can. I just want to know that we've got a little bit of reserves out on the exit there, but on the anchors, about 125 metres out, slide the car in, attack the first curb. It is going to be Andrea Kimi Antonelli with his first pole position in this series there. Across the line, we only go 7th. Well, there we go then. Of course, the all season so far, it has been a battle between Cadillac and Ferrari, and suddenly Red Bull, Mercedes and McLaren all end up going quicker there. Good luck by Oscar Piastri to get himself up in P4 when all is said and done, just ahead of Charles Leclerc, Yuki Tsunoda and myself. Lando Norris down in P11, so he will be kicking himself that he had such a bad run through that session, but a very, very mixed up grid. And of course, we don't have many laps in the sprint race to try and get back to where you think you should be.
Forget pit stops, forget fuel management. It's pedal to the metal all the way here as we get ready for today's sprint. So here we are once again, ready to go racing through the Ardennes forest. 4.35 miles of long straights, fast corners and massive elevation changes. It makes this not only one of the most exciting circuits on the calendar, but one that makes for some consistently high quality racing as well. Simply put it, there's no place quite like it. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Kimi Antonelli lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Sainz, Piastri, Charles Leclerc and Tsunoda, Hadjar, Behrman, Hülkenberg and Esteban Ocon, Norris, Tremnitz, Paul Aron and Soloff, O'Sullivan, Gasly, Pepe Marti and Gabriel Bortoleto, Crawford, Doohan, Colapinto and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
Well, I must admit, all of those shots across the circuit here, there is no track in the world that Formula 1 heads to that comes close to this place. I know every single time I race here, I basically just spend the entire video talking about how much I love Spa, but I just really, really love Spa. 8 laps though ahead of us, ready for today's sprint race. Starting from P7, we have got our work to do, but a good start on lap 1. We could very easily be up inside the top 3 here. I want to be ahead of Leclerc though, that is goal number 1. So the 5 red lights are on. There's the lights out, and away we go there, off to a fairly mediocre start. Just wanted to avoid wheel spin on the short run in towards that first corner, but we'll dive into the inside of the MasterCard McLaren there of Yuki Tsunoda, and hopefully we'll be able to get the power down as we make our way down in towards Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Are either of us going to lift? Can we make it work? They're 2x2 right the way up towards the front of the order, but Kimi Antonelli, he has bolted at the front as Russell and Sainz going now side by side. Charles Leclerc there thought for a moment he might want to make it 3 wide as we get up in towards Le Com. Decides to back out of it there. He knows there is a bigger kind of championship at stake, and a few extra points in a sprint race might not help him too much, but he does squeeze out Oscar Piastri, and that'll allow us down the inside of our teammate then. So both of your championship protagonists trying to get off to a good start here. I mean, Lando Norris, bit of a statement last weekend out at Silverstone, but he needs to be able to maintain momentum through more weekends if he really wants to be in this fight. Too often has he found himself just battling behind myself and Leclerc, just trying to keep up with us as best as he can, but so much grip as we make our way down through Stavelot for the first time here, trying to keep the car clean and tidy on lap 1. But Antonelli, I mean, it would be fascinating if the Red Bull pace is real towards the end of the season, because he's gone. Just trying to make sure that we charge the pack then as we get ready to start lap 2. Of course, we know just how powerful the DRS can be around this Belgian circuit. There is down through Eau Rouge and Raidillon once again. Charles Leclerc wants to try and line up a move on George Russell. What can we do though as we activate that DRS up towards VMAX already up the Kemmel straight, 229 miles an hour as we will go 3 wide there. I hear plenty of contact on the inside as Russell and Leclerc there. Oh, I think Charles Leclerc's lost his front wing, so huge damage for Leclerc, and I've got into the back of him.
Now look, I've put a new strategy option for you in the MFD, so go and have a look.
Oh, we definitely cannot afford to pit in this race, but Charles Leclerc, the championship pressure starting to get to the pair of us there. A huge dive bomb down in the next corner to make sure we get the position for now. But, I mean, how bad is that front wing damage? It hurts a bit, but we definitely don't want to pit. Well, if qualifying seemed like a bit of a fluke for the top 3, they certainly now have got a golden opportunity here, as I need to try and find a way in which we can let Oscar Piastri through and up into 4th spot here. Need to try and defend from Leclerc, but I mean, look at that speed he's got in that Ferrari. Oh, down in towards Silmon, and I've completely locked up there. Charles Leclerc luckily will read that and will try and switch me off the exit of the corner, but I will try and be really strategic with this, claim the DRS off of the Ferrari man by the time we get, well, up through Eau Rouge and Raidillon there, as that is a very sketchy line through the top of the circuit. But I mean, look at that, Leclerc desperate to try and defend. Here comes Piastri to the inside of the pair of us, and our Cadillac teammate will move up then into 4th spot. Leclerc still isn't done with this, though, as we try and make it a bit awkward for him through the next corner. But as long as Piastri is through and setting sail up the road, that is the most important bit. Well, I know Charles Leclerc isn't happy with me. That dive bomb we tried on him right at the end of the British Grand Prix, up to that point, this World Championship had been pretty respectful. But as we've kind of started to see IRL between the two McLaren drivers, and, you know, as the temperature cooker continues to heat up towards the end of the campaign, things can get really, really spicy. You both want to try and take more out of each other. As Piastri, new fastest lap of the day, could he potentially try and get back into that fight? Right towards the front as Leclerc breaks again early down to that first corner, and we've lost even more front wing now.
Recommend you box for a new one. Box now.
I mean, no idea what that was all about there, but Leclerc seemed to slam on the anchors down in towards La Source there, and, well, we're going to have to try and move the brake bias around slightly as well, because we are really struggling with the fronts, but I've got to make the move happen. To the inside we will go by the time we get up the end of the Kemmel Straight, and now we've got to try and park the bus. Well, despite how much time we're losing to the cars in front, luckily, obviously that middle sector near impossible to really try and go for overtakes. So we're just able to keep managing everything we need to, as again, Leclerc, so much more confident on the brakes there, but you can't turn in on me. I'm still alongside him down at that final corner, as he will again have the DRS out of that final turn, but will he be able to go for anything in towards turn one? Going to try and really squeeze him down to the inside there, and he's going to park it on the apex, try and return the favour. We are not friends right now inside this championship, Charles Leclerc and I. He knows we are going to give him a tougher fight than anybody has done before inside this series. I mean, look at that understeering catastrophically up through Eau Rouge there. I mean, what is that? You've got to give me somewhere to go, buddy. As we'll try and muscle our way around the outside, then give him a squeeze as we become the car in front. Again, wheel to wheel up through the top of the circuit. Now we're squeezing him out towards the gravel on the exit there. I mean, this fight, without something dramatic happening, could probably not get much more chaotic than it is. Down the outside, through Malmedy there. Leclerc will have the grip off of the corner. Can we have a look to the inside? We do barge our way back through again. Leclerc and I, this is getting incredibly heated right now. It could end up being a double DNF as Leclerc. I mean, again, he just tries to force his nose down, you know, try and completely cut through me down the hill. As, I mean, I'm giving it as much as I'm taking it. I'm certainly not going to argue against that, but if I'm still there, you can't just turn in and expect me to disappear. Well, we really are racing like we are the only two cars on the circuit right now. Yuki Tsunoda even has been able to squeeze by and has moved his way up the order then, but Lando Norris still not even in your top 9 right now, as again, Leclerc another dive to the inside down at that first corner. This time around we'll try and hang on to it around the outside there off of the turn. You can just see how much drive that Ferrari has got off of the corner. I know I'm trying to save my battery strategically so that we can get a run up the Kemmel Straight once more. But, I mean, yeah, this is getting very, very feisty. I mean, there could be a huge crash between us. The speed's so high here in Belgium. This is not really what you want as Hulkenberg. Now I'm trying to have a look. Oh, around the outside, and Hulkenberg's hit me. As we lock up the fronts again, we have to cut the corner. As Leclerc will make his way back through once more, parks it on the exit. Hulkenberg's gone. As we will try and dive back down the inside, both Audis are gone. What on earth is happening? We've got like 4 cars DNFing from this race there as Leclerc trying to now skate free into the distance. No idea what has happened up at the top of the circuit. And now it's only, I believe, Ocon and Norris that are tucked up behind us there. Ocon will make his way through. So now will Lando Norris as Leclerc definitely has got less damage than ourselves, but both of the Audi cars, they're innocent bystanders in everything that was going on inside this sprint race. I mean, we're not going to score a point here, running all the way down there in P9, but unless a car in front gets a mechanical failure, I mean, every point counts. We may as well just keep going. Well, I'm just hoping then, as we get ready to start the last lap here, that Ocon and Norris are going to be able to try and find a way around Leclerc. Will Ferrari tell Lando just to sit in behind? I mean, you can't really start making Lando the number 2 driver. He is still only 30 points out. All it takes is one mechanical failure, and he is straight back in that fight up towards the front. But Kimi Antonelli has absolutely dog-walked this race so far. took pole yesterday with a brilliant lap in the wet, kept the lead at the start, let everybody squabble behind him, and as an absolute implosion of Charles Leclerc and I's relationship this weekend, it is going to be the young Italian that looks like he's going to claim victory here. Tsunoda still unable to find a... Sorry, Ocon even still unable to find a way around Leclerc by the time they get up towards the top of the circuit. But surely he's going to be able to try and get somewhere around him, because I think if Leclerc finishes 6th and I finish here, we will therefore only have a 1-point lead in the World Championship as we head into the main event there. But like I said, this is normally a track that we are so strong. I really need to try and put this sprint race behind us and try and walk away with the Grand Prix victory there. Up in towards the final few corners, though. A lot of people questioned, how would Red Bull face without Max Verstappen? How would Kimi Antonelli be able to step into that team and deliver? He's been better than Ocon pretty reliably so far this campaign. Out of the final corner, Kimi Antonelli is a Formula 1 sprint winner. Hopefully for him, he can do the same tomorrow. It's going to be, I think, George Russell and Carlos Sainz there that follow him home, just ahead of Oscar Piastri. So at least our teammate there has scored a few good points for Cadillac as well. But what a dramatic sprint race it has been from the Ardennes. We need to try and put it behind us. We need to make sure that we stay nowhere near Charles Leclerc as we head into the main event. Out of the final corner, it is P9. Well, there we are then, Kimi Antonelli. I mean, I know it's not a real Grand Prix, but still, he can be very proud of that one. 2 seconds clear. Just controlled the pace at the front, didn't he? Carlos Sainz in P2 ahead of Russell there, as we said. Piastri, Tsunoda, Leclerc, Ocon and Norris rounding out your point scorers as well. What does that do to our World Championship? Well, it means that, yeah, we've got a 1-point buffer at the top of the table. But I'm hoping if Oscar Piastri can get some good results under his belt, maybe he can bring himself closer to this fight once again. Lando Norris takes 1 point out of us as well. But in the Constructors, we take 1 point out of Ferrari. That gap down to just 30 points. I'm going to put the sprint race behind us. Let's just focus on the real thing. Well, a much drier one-shot qualifying session this time round, so let's see what this Cadillac car is capable of then. Kimi Antonelli dominating the early part of the weekend, so we could not have got any closer to that inside wall down in turn 1, but Leclerc, Lando and myself all know we need to try and put the sprint behind us and focus on trying to get a good effort done here in qualifying. Of course, need to score, big points when the big points are available here on Sunday afternoon tomorrow. Towards the end, though, of Sector 1, we know we haven't always had the best car through that first sector, but around this twisty middle section, this should hopefully be where this Cadillac comes alive. As you can just see, there's so much confidence on the brakes as we plunge down the hill through Malmedy there. Throw the car around, avoid some of those curbs, but really maximise others there. As down in towards Pouon, I'm sure it's flat out. Easy flat. Wide open, in fact, using a little bit of battery on the exit just to carry the speed off of the corner, and then down in towards the final chicane. 200 miles an hour on the approach there. Nice and tidy as we throw the car through. Don't run too wide on the exit before we are down in towards Gerber, Paul Frere and Stavolo on the exit. 16 thousandths of a second between Leclerc and I, but he will get great drive off of the corner and try to carry that speed up the hill and in towards the final couple of turns of this lap then. Charles Leclerc, I mean, look at that Ferrari, it just keeps pulling towards the top end as well. On the brakes, so at the 100-meter board. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to get pole, but hopefully we can join him on the front row. Get the power down out of that final corner on the run back to the line. P2 on the grid. We'll have to take it. Well, look at that then. 7 kilometres around this circuit. 7 thousandths of a second in it between myself and Charles Leclerc there. Ridiculously fine margins as Lando Norris will end up 3rd. Mercedes, looks like their pace is real. Gasly and Esteban Ocon up in P4 and P5, just ahead of George Russell. But again, another disappointing qualifying effort by my teammate Oscar Piastri. We need him to do well if we want to try and fight for this Constructors. Antonelli, he'll be disappointed all the way down in P10 after a brilliant lap yesterday, but 13 drivers all able to go under the 100-second barrier here in qualifying. Tim Tramnitz, Zach O'Sullivan at the rear of the field, though. Disappointing efforts by them, but 25 points available. Let's head into the race.
Welcome to this visit to the Ardennes countryside. Spa-Francorchamps hosted its first Grand Prix back in 1925, and this historic track is loved by drivers and fans alike. And us here in the commentary box too. So it's a warm welcome from the Belgian Grand Prix. Spa-Francorchamps today, a circuit that spans 4.35 miles. There are tons of elevation changes along the way too. 19 corners making up this circuit, with 9 of those to the right and the remaining 10 to the left. This track's a great one for fans of pure speed, and the average lap speed comes close to a whopping 145 miles per hour. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole. And Isaac Hadjar completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Gasly, Esteban Ocon, and Russell. Tsunoda, Piastri, Hülkenberg, and Gabriel Bortoleto. Sainz, Aaron, Nicolas Soloff, and Stroll. Crawford, Pepe Marti, Franco Colapinto, and Ollie Behrman. Doohan, Antonelli, Tramnitz, and Zach O'Sullivan rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Well, I think the fans are going to be hoping for some absolute cinema on the run towards turn 1 between Leclerc and I, even the running towards turn 1, or up the top of the Kemmel straight as well. I know we have a big opportunity to outscore him today, so we've just got to try and take the points that we possibly can and try to put the beef yesterday behind us there. 22 laps of racing here from the Ardennes, and let's just get right into things. Norris just behind us as well, ready to pick up the pieces. It is 5 red lights. There's the lights out, and away we go then. Not getting off to the best start in the world. We'll have to use a bit of battery, as Norris, I'm sure, will try and help defend Leclerc down in towards turn 1. No idea where I'm going off there, but we get the drive off of the corner, and we will hang on then to that second spot as we plunge down in towards Eau Rouge and Raidillon for the first time today. Nice and tidy there, obviously tucked up in the wheel tracks of Leclerc in front, and unless it's raining, we all know that is obviously easy flat out, even on lap 1. When you're full of race fuel and everything else there as well. Lando Norris tries to have a look to the inside up towards the top of the circuit. But we will hang on around the outside there, hanging on to that P2 position off the start of the race. And, well, although we didn't really get an opportunity to have a go at Leclerc, I know I've just got to try and keep up with him. We are super confident on the brakes around this track. The braking and Sector 2, that seems to be where we're able to gain a lot of time on Charlie. Especially, obviously, what we saw on that qualifying run. So as we just try and dive down the hill for the first time in this Grand Prix, we've got to try and keep it clean and tidy. We know obviously we can play the DRS games as well, but we've done well. Well, that Ferrari does seem to have tremendous drive off of the corners. We saw it in the sprint, we saw it in qualifying as well. Kind of first hand just how good that car is off of the turns. And Lando Norris desperately trying to hang on to our coattails early on. I mean, this just seems to be the Lando Norris experience, doesn't it, so far during this season there, as can we get a big run on Charlie Boy by the time we get up towards the top of the circuit. He knows there's not much more he can do that time round, as we actually lock the rears slightly. Drifts us into the apex. We were a little bit lucky to gather that back up. The thing that annoys me most with Oscar Piastri in this game, I don't mind too much if he has a bad qualifying effort. I understand, especially during these one-shot weekends. It is very, very difficult to try and get the laps nailed. What more annoys me is, of course, the fact that he's not able to recover in the races. It's not as bad as it was on F1 24 by any stretch, but it feels like as the cars get quicker and quicker, obviously moving through the pack for the AI can become more and more difficult, because of course everybody is just waiting for the DRS if they ever want to go for anything. Tyre strategy, it doesn't, I mean, this isn't a circuit where tyre wear is particularly extreme anyway on these games, but you can just see that every time Charles Leclerc just able to sneak back under the DRS range and keep obviously hanging close to us. But at the moment, he's just sat there behind. He can't really do a lot else, because, I mean, the Kemmel straight, bizarrely, isn't quite long enough. Oh, we've got yellows again. That seems to be a McLaren car breaking down then. And a safety car now would really spice up this race a bit later on. I don't know if that's Yuki or Carlos. But either way, a disappointing end to their afternoon. I think from a bit of a selfish point of view, I was going to say I was hoping it was Carlos.
Okay, it looks like the problem's terminal. They're retiring the car.
Yeah, there you go. Tsunoda, the first driver out of the Grand Prix. I was going to say I hope it's Carlos, because Piastri might end up behind him in the championship pretty soon if he keeps going the way he is at the moment. But Leclerc that time round, oh no, he definitely still was in the DRS range. I thought we might just have broke free. Getting close to the pit-in lap though. Ferrari, I mean, sensibly they'll give Leclerc the option to come in first. This is Ferrari though. I'm an idiot! I completely forgot to box! Oh, Charles Leclerc hasn't either!
Some tyre wear soon, so stay on your toes.
I mean, I was bang on then about Ferrari making a bad choice, but I've just completely screwed myself over. Because we could have had an undercut now on Charles Leclerc in this race, and instead it might end up being Lando Norris that gets into the fight. Luckily for us though, Piastri about 12 seconds back now, so he's not going to be a threat, but will Leclerc now potentially be able to get a run on me? As we make our way up the Kemmel Straight. I'm starting to run a little bit low on batteries. Here comes Charlie boy. We will sit in the middle of the road there. Whoa! Completely locking the rears up as Gasly's gone from the Grand Prix. It is all happening as we get towards, well, basically at half distance, aren't we? What is happening to those rear tyres then? I mean, the wear's pretty high, but not impossible to manage. Maybe just need to move my brake bias a little bit forward again. Struggled with that in the sprint race yesterday. So having to make more minute adjustments to this car to really get it operating where we need it to. But for Lando Norris now, there is a huge chance to try and jump. We're making our way then up in towards the final couple of corners. Charles Leclerc now potentially trying to eye up a move before we get down into the pit lane here as we've got yellows out. Luckily, that means that Leclerc can't go for anything, and yet he will back out of it. Sometimes the AI don't like to obey yellow flags inside this game, as obviously we can just control the pace. Don't need to make any risks as we head into the pit lane here. There's Esteban Ocon also in, and well, Cadillac now are going to have to try and get both cars into the pit lane in one go. Looks like Lando has been held up a little bit behind one of the V-carbs this lap, so won't be able to get a jump on us with a bit of luck. Oh no, that's going to be a slow stop as well, isn't it? No, 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 no. Come on, 5 seconds. And Leclerc's jumped me. Not what we needed from the team, as then again, immediately Charles Leclerc trying to do a little bit of some cheeky brake checking there, but Lando Norris still comes back out onto the circuit about 1.5 seconds behind. We are still in the range of Leclerc, but a moment of madness in this race. We need to calm back down, we need to regroup, refocus. We can definitely still win this. I mean, for some reason, Leclerc, great drive off of every single corner, apart from the last one.
8.9 seconds.
Well, there we go then. Doesn't sound like Oscar Piastri, despite my slow stop, got screwed over by it. In fact, he's taken about 3 seconds out of us through that pit cycle, and seems to be in a pretty good spot now in this Grand Prix once again. There's less than 10 laps remaining in this race. I want to make sure Leclerc knows we will be applying pressure to him towards the end of the afternoon. But I mean, look at that. We can make huge gains, but still not able to get close enough. By the time we get to the end of the straight, we're going to have to be right under his gearbox out of turn 1 if I want to make this happen. Well, we're going to try and go for a bit of a Hail Mary this time round. You really do have to set up that move at the Kemmel Straight all the way back at Stavolo a lap before, just to try and roll in a little bit closer to Leclerc there. You can just see, though, how much better this Cadillac car is out of that final corner. And we will try to use a little bit of battery as we head back into La Source there. Well, big rear locking moment, and that might be another opportunity gone to try and get past him this time round. Dump a load of battery back through the pack as we plunge down the hill. But 3/4 of a second away there, unless we can get a huge run now. Probably not going to be able to happen. And maybe Leclerc caught napping a little bit, because we've carried on using the battery. And maybe now we can try and go for something on the Monegasque man. He defends the inside, but nowhere near enough. Pinches me to the apex though beautifully, and once again Leclerc able to hang on. We can't afford to take risks like we did in the sprint, because obviously if we come together, even if we both end up getting big damage, Lando Norris, he will then immediately catapult himself right into championship contention, and I'd rather focus on one Ferrari than both. Well, I've taken the last couple of laps just to try and sit back, recharge the battery pack, and try and go for one last assault against Leclerc into these final 3 laps. Like I said, you really have to plan a move from all the way back down at the exit of Stavolo there. Just with the way the AI operate inside this game, you can see Leclerc once again now just with a little bit of breathing room, but we are able to get this caddy over those curbs and close in a good half a second through the old bus stop chicane there, down in towards Stelmano. A lot of understeer from the front end, but we will just about gather it up there. And now, with 80% battery in the pack, surely we're going to be able to get a run out of Rouge and Radion here. I don't want to leave it to the very last lap, because I know the AI will try and use everything they've got left. Can we get a run, though, on Charles Leclerc? Back to the lead of the Grand Prix. He will squeeze me again, but this time round, unable to do anything. The momentum in this car, just far too much for the Monegasque man to handle. And finally, we are back up into P1 once again. This has honestly felt like a Verstappen-Hamilton battle all the way back in 2021, where the two of us in 2 different cars are just leagues quicker than everybody else. We haven't got a big advantage, as they would sometimes run in Grand Prix, but we are doing pretty well at the moment there as trying to use a low more battery as we make our way down the hill. Can we immediately get the gap over a second to Leclerc? I think we have done. Let's look at that purple through Sector 1, of course, helped along by all of that slipstream and DRS. What are we going to do by the end of Sector 2 there? We are purple again, so we are going to try and chase a fastest lap then, right towards the end of the stint, just as maybe Leclerc's hard tyres beginning to fall apart. Ours are really starting to come alive here, as making our way up the hill in towards this bus stop chicane once more. A 1:41.3 is the time to chase. Will we be able to go any quicker? Would we be able to potentially get down to a 1:40 here? It's getting the power down out of the final corner. Norris is gone. I've only just seen Lando Norris out of this Grand Prix. So suddenly this helps us in the Constructors as well. And Lando Norris, World Championship hopes, maybe going up in smoke here with just 3 laps remaining out in the Ardennes. A controversial moment. Perhaps that's why Leclerc's dropped away so much as well, is the team have told him, just look after the engine, get the car to the flag. Is it a mechanical for Lando, or is it just a puncture? I think he's gone round down at the bus stop as well. So I think it might, be a puncture for Lando Norris then as he peels into the pit lane. But another weekend where he's going to fail to score. And like I said, that now means with 7 races remaining of this season, his championship aspirations are in tatters. One more lap to go then, and yeah, Lando Norris even has re-emerged onto the circuit all the way down in P19 there. Such a devastating result for the Ferrari man, and I must admit, he does seem to get a little bit unlucky with, punctures, with engine failures inside this game, but I think he knows Ferrari, they always are going to put their eggs in the Charles Leclerc basket. A little bit gutted. I mean, this should be an easy P3 now for Oscar Piastri. We're still going to make good gains on Ferrari overall, but it should be a whole lot more then if we lose the World Championship by 5 points or less. And I guess we can blame it on Oscar probably finishing 5th here rather than 3rd spot as well. But, I mean, like I said, we're going to make good gains on Ferrari in the Constructors. That is critical as we get towards the sharp end of the World Championship. 7 more races and 2 sprints still to go. There is a lot left to be decided this season. But here today in Belgium, after a lot of controversy yesterday, Charles Leclerc and I don't believe we'd made contact in this main event today. But boy, oh boy, we got close a couple of times there. Our attempted pass on the grass on the Monegasque man. He got the better of me in qualifying by just 7 thousandths of a second. In fact, I think this 2.2 seconds has basically been the biggest margin we've had all day between the two of us. Relentless, this fight, as we head in towards the big championship leg towards the end of the season. Through Blanchimont one final time, though, for Oscar Piastri, it is going to be victory here in the Ardennes, as long as I do nothing stupid through these final couple of corners. Ferrari, they will be disappointed with that one, but for Oscar Piastri, it is pure elation.
And it's victory today for Isaac Hadjar.
But another race victory today, and you can clearly see they're starting to believe in themselves more and more. You get to a stage, Crofty, where you become very hard to beat as a driver when you keep putting in performances like this one.
Well, it's been a long wait for many of our drivers, but the wait is always worth it. Bring them out to the awaiting crowd. It's time for our podium celebrations. And you've got to hand it to Isaac Hadja, head and shoulders above the rest today, and victory with another impressive performance.
Well, there we are then. After a tough sprint race yesterday, we will bring home the goods come race day Sunday. Exactly what we needed here in Belgium. Coming into this weekend, I knew this was a track that we can win at. I knew it was a track, to be honest, we needed to win at if I want to try and keep my championship hopes alive, because we're going to have some tough races towards the end of the campaign. 1.2 seconds in it, though. In fact, the gap at the end was actually smaller than the gap between Leclerc and I's fastest laps in this race, so it goes to show just how good that lap 20 was late on in the race there. Esteban Ocon, not quite the win that Antonelli got in the sprint, but a good podium there for Red Bull. Goes to show that there is still good speed in that car when they can get it hooked up. George Russell just ahead of Piastri there. Hulkenberg, a brilliant drive to 6th in that Audi. As finally that German team seems to be getting their act together. Bortoletto just ahead of Crawford, Colapinto as well, so big opportunities for points for quite a few surprising drivers. Carlos Sainz down in 10th, and of course again, Nikola Solov in 11th place. I don't know how many times he's done it this year, but yeah, very, very disappointing, I'm sure, for him, as points still seem to elude him. Just Gasly and Tsunoda, though, that failed to see the checkered flag this afternoon. I'm sure both of those two will be disappointed with that. Having a look, though, at our World Championship standings, it means that we've got an 8-point lead now over Charles Leclerc, but Lando Norris 54 points back. I mean, he's basically going to need Leclerc and I to crash into each other a couple of times, isn't he? Similar scenario to where Verstappen is IRL in 2025. Piastri crosses the 100-point threshold as well. Now has a 20-point buffer ahead of Sainz once again, as Russell's still in 6th ahead of both of those Red Bulls. Tsunoda, Gasly just inside your top 10 ahead of Bortoletto and Hulkenberg there. Down at the rear of the field, though, Solov, like we said, still unable to score a point alongside Lance Stroll, Tim Tramnitz and both of those V-carbs. And constructors-wise, though, the gap at the top down to just 13 points here. McLaren, Mercedes and Red Bull all still look to be in that battle a bit further behind, as then Aston Martin, Williams and Kick Sauber just 3 points covering those three teams as well. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon when Formula 1 returns ready for, I believe it's the Dutch Grand Prix.